Sometimes in life, we find ourselves sacrificing too much for someone we deeply love and care for. We go above and beyond to meet their needs, only to be met with betrayal when they achieve their desires. They take advantage of our kindness, acting carefully when they need us, but the moment they get what they want, they vanish like a bird flying away in an instant. But did you know that you can change this dynamic and take control of the situation? By avoiding these 7 behaviors, you can see immediate results and regain your power. Let's discover it together right now. First, don't stop living your own life. Altering your life to fit into someone else's is like wearing shoes that don't fit. They're painful, unnecessary, and slow you down. When you constantly shift your life to align with someone else's needs, you lose your own direction and rhythm. As Seneca wisely said, to be everywhere is to be nowhere. It's time to stop trying to be everything for someone else and start embracing your own path. Live your life unapologetically and on your terms, because your life isn't a compromise or a bargain, it's your epic journey. Let's talk about something that might seem simple at first glance, but when you really dig into it, you'll find it's one of the most profound principles in life. Living your own life without constantly reshaping it to fit into someone else's mold. Imagine this: you're walking down a path in a beautiful forest. The air is crisp, the scent of pine surrounds you, and every step you take feels purposeful. Now, picture someone coming along and telling you to veer off this path, to follow them down a trail that's rocky, uneven, and not meant for you. You follow, but with every step, the ground beneath you feels wrong. That's what it's like when you start altering your life to fit into someone else's. Think about Seneca's words, to be everywhere is to be nowhere. This isn't just a clever saying, it's a reality that many people live without realizing it. When you stretch yourself thin, trying to be everything for someone else, you end up losing sight of who you are and where you're headed. It's like pouring water into so many different cups that eventually you have none left for yourself. This doesn't just leave you drained, it leaves you empty, with nothing of substance to offer to anyone, including yourself. Imagine another scenario. You're a musician playing a symphony. Each note you play is part of a grand composition that's uniquely yours. But now, someone else asks you to play their tune instead. You try, but the notes don't flow as naturally, the melody isn't yours, and suddenly, the music doesn't resonate the way it once did. That's what happens when you forsake your own rhythm to march to someone else's beat. You lose the harmony that comes from living authentically, from staying true to your own composition. You see, life is a journey, your journey. And on this journey, it's crucial to wear shoes that fit, not ones that cause blisters and make every step painful. Imagine hiking up a mountain in shoes that are too tight or too loose. You'd struggle with every step, and what should be an empowering, enlightening experience becomes a trial, something you dread. This is exactly what happens when you try to force your life into someone else's expectations. You might reach the summit, but the journey there will be far more painful than it needs to be. Let's consider the idea of balance. Picture a tightrope walker, high above the ground, each step measured and deliberate. If they were to lean too far to one side, they'd lose their balance and fall. Now, what if that tightrope walker kept trying to adjust their steps to match someone else walking beside them? They'd likely fall off the rope entirely, because they're no longer centered. This is what happens when you constantly shift your life for others. You lose your balance, your center, and eventually, you might even lose yourself. Living your life unapologetically isn't about being selfish, it's about being centered. It's about understanding that your life is an epic journey, not a series of compromises to please others. Think about an artist with a blank canvas. Each brushstroke they make is intentional, deliberate, and adds to the masterpiece they're creating. Now, imagine if that artist let someone else dictate where each brushstroke should go. The canvas would no longer reflect the artist's vision but a muddled attempt to please someone else. The same goes for your life. Every choice you make is a brushstroke on the canvas of your existence. Make sure those strokes are yours, not someone else's. Now, let's talk about direction. If you're constantly changing course to meet someone else's needs, you'll find yourself lost in a maze, with no clear path forward. Imagine driving a car, but every few minutes, someone tells you to take a different turn. You'd never reach your destination. Your life is no different. When you live for someone else, you're like a ship without a rudder, drifting aimlessly, at the mercy of the currents. But when you set your own course, when you steer your own ship, you move with purpose, with intention, and with the confidence that you're headed in the right direction. You know, there's a certain freedom that comes with living your life on your terms. It's like standing on the edge of a cliff, not in fear, but in awe of the endless possibilities before you. When you stop trying to fit into someone else's shoes, you discover the joy of walking your own path, of feeling the ground beneath your feet that's meant just for you. It's liberating, it's exhilarating, and it's empowering. Now, this doesn't mean you close yourself off from others. On the contrary, it means you bring your whole self into your relationships without losing who you are. Imagine a tree with deep roots, standing tall and strong. The tree doesn't change its roots for the wind that blows or the rain that falls. It stands firm, grounded in its own strength, yet it still sways and bends with the elements. That's how you should live, firm in your own identity, yet flexible enough to connect with others without losing yourself. You might be wondering, but what if I let someone down? Here's the thing, living authentically doesn't mean you never make adjustments for others. It means those adjustments don't compromise who you are. It's the difference between bending and breaking. You can bend to accommodate others at times, but when you start to break, that's when you know you've gone too far. Think of a bridge. It can support a lot of weight, but if it's overloaded, it'll collapse. Don't let your life collapse under the weight of trying to be everything for someone else. In your journey, you'll encounter people who may not understand why you've chosen to live life on your own terms. They might try to pull you back into the path they think you should take. But remember, it's your journey, not theirs. Imagine a river flowing freely, carving its own path through the landscape. Sometimes, there are obstacles, rocks, and bends, but the river keeps flowing, always moving forward. Your life should be like that river, unstoppable, always flowing towards your own goals and dreams. Living your life unapologetically means embracing your unique story. It's about recognizing that your life is not a bargain, not something to be traded for someone else's approval. It's an epic tale, one that you get to write with every decision, every action, and every moment of courage. Think of yourself as the hero of your own story. Heroes don't compromise their values or their path for others. They inspire others to find their own path. That's the kind of life you're meant to live, one that inspires, that shines brightly, and that is unapologetically yours. So, let's bring this home. Don't stop living your own life. Don't try to wear someone else's shoes. Your path, your journey, your life, these are yours and yours alone. Live it fully, live it boldly, and live it unapologetically. Because in the end, the only person who truly knows the path you're meant to walk is you. And trust me, when you walk that path with confidence and purpose, you won't just live a life, you'll live a legacy. Second, let nothing compromise your mental health and happiness. Sacrificing your well-being for someone else's sake is like setting your house on fire to keep them warm. It's self-destructive and pointless. When you neglect your happiness to please someone else, you end up in ashes while they enjoy the warmth. Aristotle wisely stated, happiness depends upon ourselves. If you sacrifice your mental peace for someone else's happiness, you're betraying yourself. Take back control of your happiness and mental health. They are non-negotiable. Stop being a martyr in someone else's story and become the hero in your own. Guard your peace and joy fiercely, and never let anyone steal your happiness. Have you ever asked yourself, what does it mean to guard your happiness and mental health as if your life depends on it? Because, in a very real sense, it does. Imagine this: your mind is a fortress, and inside it, your peace and joy are the treasures you must protect at all costs. Yet, how often do we leave the gates wide open, allowing others to storm in and take whatever they please? We might think we're being generous, selfless even, but what happens when we give away so much of ourselves that there's nothing left? Consider a story, then. There was a man named Marcus, a humble farmer who lived at the edge of a forest. His farm was small, his life simple, but he had found a deep contentment in the rhythm of his days. However, he had a neighbor, Lucius, who was always in need. Lucius would come by regularly, asking for tools, food, advice, whatever he needed to ease his burdens. Marcus, kind-hearted and generous, never refused him. At first, it was just small things, a loaf of bread here, a tool there. But as time went on, Lucius's demands grew. He began asking for larger favors, even asking Marcus to do the work for him while he rested. Marcus, wanting to be a good neighbor, continued to oblige, even when it meant sacrificing his own time and resources. He began to neglect his own farm, his crops started to wilt, and his own health began to deteriorate from the constant work. But every time Lucius came with a new request, Marcus would push aside his own needs, thinking, I can endure this a little longer for his sake. Eventually, the day came when Marcus had nothing left to give. His farm was in ruins, his body exhausted, and his spirit broken. Lucius, noticing this, simply moved on to another neighbor, leaving Marcus alone in his dilapidated house. Marcus had set his own life ablaze to keep Lucius warm, and now all that remained were ashes. Now, reflect on this. Was Marcus truly helping Lucius, or was he merely enabling his neighbor's dependency while destroying himself in the process? The Stoics teach us that while it's noble to help others, it should never come at the cost of our own well-being. The balance lies in understanding that you cannot pour from an empty cup. When you sacrifice your mental health and happiness for others, you aren't just harming yourself, you're also failing to show others the true strength that comes from within, the resilience that can inspire them to find their own way. Let's draw from another story. There was once a wise philosopher named Epictetus, who was born a slave but found freedom in his mind. He would often say, "No man is free who is not master of himself." He understood that true freedom came not from external circumstances, but from within. One day, a student came to Epictetus, complaining that his life was full of stress because he was always trying to please everyone around him. Epictetus listened patiently and then asked, "If you spend all your time pleasing others, when do you have time to be at peace with yourself?" The student was silent, realizing that he had been so focused on external validation that he had neglected the most important relationship of all, the one with himself. This story brings us to an essential Stoic lesson. Your peace and joy are your most precious assets, and they are yours to guard. Just as you wouldn't leave your door unlocked at night, you shouldn't leave your mind open to the negativity and demands of others. It's not selfish to prioritize your well-being, it's essential. Aristotle's wisdom rings true here. Happiness depends upon ourselves. If you rely on others for your happiness, you give them the power to take it away. But when you understand that your happiness is rooted in your choices, your mindset, and your actions, you reclaim your power. Let's revisit Marcus. Imagine if, instead of continuously giving in to Lucius's demands, he had set boundaries. He could have helped Lucius find ways to be more self-sufficient, or simply said, "I've done all I can, now you must do the rest." Marcus's farm might have flourished, his health might have remained intact, and Lucius might have learned to stand on his own. Marcus would have remained a hero in his story, not a martyr in Lucius's. So, ask yourself, are you living as the hero of your story, or are you playing a supporting role in someone else's? It's easy to get caught up in the needs and expectations of others, but Stoicism teaches us to return to our center. Your mind, your peace, your happiness, these are your home. And like any good home, they require upkeep. Neglect them, and they will crumble. Remember, no one else is responsible for your happiness. This doesn't mean you should isolate yourself or refuse to help others. On the contrary, when you are strong, when you are whole, you can give more authentically and effectively. But that strength must come from a place of inner stability, not from sacrificing yourself on the altar of others' expectations. Epictetus also said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. In other words, don't let others dictate your worth or your choices. If maintaining your peace means disappointing others, so be it. Better to be misunderstood and at peace than praised and in turmoil. Ultimately, your mental health and happiness are your responsibility, and they are non-negotiable. Think of it this way, when you board an airplane, they always tell you to put on your oxygen mask first before helping others. The same principle applies to life. You must first secure your own well-being before you can truly be of service to others. Otherwise, you risk losing yourself in the process. The next one, don't cut off your friends or family to please someone else. Isolating yourself from those who have supported you is like cutting off the branches of your own support tree. Friends and family are the roots that hold you up, and when you sever those connections, you destroy your own support system. Plato once said, people are like dirt, they can either nourish you and help you grow or stunt your growth and make you wilt and die. Don't let someone else dictate your relationships or make you feel like you have to choose between them and your support network. Reconnect with those who've always stood by you, and remember that your friends and family are irreplaceable. Imagine, for a moment, the quiet strength of a tree. This tree, which symbolizes your life, stands tall and firm, nourished by deep roots that have taken years to grow and strengthen. Each branch represents a vital connection, whether it's family, friends, or those who have been a constant presence in your journey. Now, consider what happens if you start cutting away these branches to please someone else. The tree becomes unbalanced, its strength compromised, and eventually, it may no longer be able to withstand the pressures it faces. Let's take this idea a bit further, drawing from a story about a man named Marcus. Marcus was a man who valued his independence above all else. He was self-reliant, confident, and didn't see the need to lean on others. When a new romantic relationship blossomed in his life, he began to distance himself from his close friends and even his family. It wasn't that he didn't care about them, rather, he believed that focusing on this new relationship was the best way to ensure its success. But as time passed, Marcus noticed something troubling. The deeper he got into this relationship, the more isolated he felt. His friends were no longer reaching out, his family gatherings became less frequent, and the relationship that had once felt so invigorating now felt confining. Marcus had unknowingly severed the branches of his own support tree, and he was beginning to feel the weight of his actions. This brings us to a critical point. The Stoics often emphasized the importance of balance, of not becoming too attached to any one thing to the exclusion of all else. Marcus's mistake was not in forming a new relationship, but in allowing it to overshadow all others. By cutting off those who had been a steadfast presence in his life, he lost the balance that kept him grounded. It's a common situation, isn't it? We've all been there at some point, where the excitement of something new blinds us to the importance of what we already have. But true wisdom lies in recognizing that new experiences should add to our lives, not subtract from them. Now, let's consider another story, this time about a woman named Clara. Clara was a dedicated professional, climbing the corporate ladder with determination and focus. Her career was flourishing, but at a cost. Over time, she found herself drifting away from her closest friends and even her family. It wasn't a deliberate choice, but rather a gradual shift, as her work became her priority. Clara told herself that this was the price of success, that her friends and family would understand. However, when she faced a personal crisis, one that shook her to her core, she realized that she was standing alone. The people who had always been there for her were now distant, not because they didn't care, but because she had distanced herself from them. Clara's realization was painful. She had neglected the roots that had always supported her, and now, when she needed them most, they were no longer within reach. These stories illustrate a vital truth. The relationships we cultivate are not just optional extras, they are essential to our well-being. When we prioritize one connection at the expense of all others, we risk losing the very support system that sustains us. The Stoics understood this deeply. They taught that while we should be independent and self-sufficient, we must also recognize the importance of our connections with others. We are social creatures by nature, and our well-being is intimately tied to the quality of our relationships. Think about your own life for a moment. Who are the people that have always been there for you? Your friends, your family, perhaps even a mentor or a colleague who has offered you guidance and support. These are the roots that keep you anchored, that provide stability when life's storms threaten to knock you down. And like any tree, your roots need care and attention. They need to be nurtured, not neglected. If you start cutting away these connections to please someone else, you risk weakening the very foundation of your life. Now, you might find yourself in situations where you feel torn between pleasing a new partner, a demanding job, or a fresh opportunity, and maintaining your existing relationships. It's a delicate balance, but it's a balance worth striving for. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that you can sacrifice your long-standing connections for the sake of something new. Instead, find a way to integrate these new experiences into your life without discarding the old. Your friends and family are irreplaceable, and they deserve your time and attention. Let's return to Marcus for a moment. After realizing the mistake he had made, he took steps to reconnect with his friends and family. It wasn't easy. Some of his relationships had suffered, and it took time and effort to rebuild them. But Marcus understood that these connections were worth the investment. He reached out, apologized where necessary, and made a concerted effort to spend time with those who had always been there for him. Slowly, the branches of his support tree began to grow back, and with them, Marcus found a renewed sense of balance and peace. Similarly, Clara also took steps to mend the relationships she had neglected. She made time for her friends, even when work was demanding. She visited her family more often, sharing her successes and challenges with them. And in doing so, she rediscovered the strength that comes from having a strong support network. Clara's career continued to flourish, but now she had the added benefit of knowing that she wasn't facing life's challenges alone. These stories serve as powerful reminders that our relationships are a crucial part of our lives. We cannot afford to take them for granted or to neglect them in pursuit of something else. The Stoics would advise us to maintain our connections with care, to ensure that we are not sacrificing one part of our lives for the sake of another. It's about finding harmony, about recognizing that true success is not just about personal achievement, but about the quality of the relationships we build and maintain. So, the next time you find yourself faced with a decision that could impact your relationships, take a moment to reflect. Consider the long-term consequences of your actions. Will cutting off these connections leave you stronger or weaker? More fulfilled or more isolated? Often, the answer will be clear. You'll see that your friends and family are not just important, they are essential to your well-being. They are the roots that hold you up, and without them, you may find yourself struggling to stay upright. In the end, the lesson is simple yet profound: cherish your connections. Nurture them. Make time for the people who matter to you, even when life gets busy. And remember, no relationship is worth sacrificing the support system that has carried you through so much. The Stoics understood that we are all interconnected, and that our strength lies not just in ourselves, but in the relationships we build with others. So, keep your roots strong, and you'll find that your life is richer, more balanced, and ultimately, more fulfilling. Next, don't destroy your own life by becoming overly dependent on someone else. Allowing your life to revolve around someone else is like a satellite trapped in orbit. You lose sight of your own goals and individuality. When you focus too much on another person, your aspirations fade, and their needs overshadow yours. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that he who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe. Obsessing over someone disrupts your harmony and diminishes your light. It's time to shine your own sun, break free from their orbit, and light up your own path. Your life is not a support act for someone else's show. You are the headline act in your own story. Let's take a moment to reflect on something that many of us have experienced at some point in our lives. Picture yourself standing in the middle of a vast field, a place that represents all the opportunities, dreams, and aspirations that your life holds. The sun is shining brightly, and the world around you is alive with potential. But instead of exploring this field and making the most of what's available to you, you find yourself orbiting around someone else's world, like a satellite caught in their gravitational pull. You're no longer the center of your own life. Instead, you're revolving around their needs, desires, and expectations. Now, this shift doesn't happen overnight. It often starts subtly, almost imperceptibly. You meet someone who captivates your attention, someone who seems to fill a void in your life or brings a sense of excitement that you've been missing. You start spending more and more time with them, thinking about them constantly. Gradually, you begin to mold your life around theirs, making sacrifices that you justify as acts of love or commitment. But in doing so, you start to lose sight of your own path. Your dreams, once clear and vibrant, begin to fade as you prioritize their needs over your own. Let's pause here and consider a powerful insight from Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher. He said, "He who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe." This wisdom speaks to the importance of staying true to your own values, your own path. Living in harmony with yourself means nurturing your individuality and not allowing someone else's life to overshadow your own. But when you become overly dependent on someone else, this inner harmony is disrupted. You start to feel out of sync, disconnected from your true self, because you've given away your power to someone else. Think about it this way. Imagine that you're an artist, like Clara, who once found joy and fulfillment in her creative work. Your paintings are a reflection of your inner world, full of color and life. But then, someone comes into your life who seems to need you more than anything. They are charming, yes, but they are also demanding, constantly requiring your attention, your time, your energy. In your love for them, you begin to neglect your art. The brushes that once brought you so much happiness now gather dust as you devote yourself to meeting their needs. Over time, Clara's world began to shrink. She stopped painting altogether, and the studio that was once her sanctuary became a place she rarely visited. Her friends noticed the change in her. They saw how she had lost her spark, her joy, and her sense of purpose. But Clara was too entangled in her partner's life to see what was happening. She had become a mere shadow of her former self, revolving around someone else's desires, and in doing so, she lost sight of her own identity. One day, a close friend visited Clara and, seeing the state she was in, gently reminded her of the vibrant artist she used to be. This friend shared with Clara the words of Marcus Aurelius, "He who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe." These words struck a chord deep within Clara. She realized that she had been living in disharmony, not just with herself, but with the universe. She had allowed someone else's needs to overshadow her own, and in the process, she lost herself. Clara began to make changes, small at first, but significant. She started spending time in her studio again, reconnecting with her art. It wasn't easy, breaking free from the orbit she had been caught in took time and effort. But with each brushstroke, she began to reclaim her life, her individuality. Her world, once dimmed by someone else's demands, started to brighten again. She rediscovered the joy that came from expressing herself, from living her life according to her own values and desires. What we can learn from Clara's story is something we've all encountered at one point or another. Many of us have found ourselves in situations where we've allowed someone else's needs to become the center of our universe. We've experienced moments where we've lost sight of our path, where our dreams have taken a back seat because we've become too focused on someone else. But the beautiful thing about life is that it's never too late to make a change. It's never too late to reclaim your life, to step out of someone else's orbit, and to start shining your own light. It's essential to remember that your life is not a supporting role in someone else's story. You are not here to play second fiddle to someone else's lead. Your life is your own, and you are the protagonist. You have your own story to tell, your own journey to walk. Don't allow anyone to take that away from you. Don't let someone else's needs or expectations dictate the course of your life. You have the power to create a life that is true to you, one that reflects your values, your dreams, and your purpose. As we think about this, let's also consider the importance of not letting anyone else control your happiness or your success. When you place your happiness in someone else's hands, you're giving them power over your life. But happiness and fulfillment are not things that can be outsourced. They are something you cultivate from within. You are responsible for your own happiness, for your own sense of fulfillment. No one else can do that for you. Then, just take a moment to reflect on your own life. Are you living in harmony with who you are? Or have you allowed yourself to become a satellite, revolving around someone else's world? If you find yourself in the latter situation, know that you have the power to change it. You have the power to break free from the orbit of dependency, to reclaim your individuality, and to shine your own light. Your life is too valuable to be spent living in someone else's shadow. Embrace your journey, follow your path, and live in harmony with yourself. When you do, you'll find that the universe aligns with you, and the possibilities before you are boundless. And the next rule is about don't reveal everything about your past. Sharing every detail of your past with someone is like giving them a map to all your hidden treasures and vulnerabilities. Your past, especially the darker parts, is sacred and personal. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "When we are tired, we are attacked by ideas we conquered long ago." By revealing all your secrets, you make yourself vulnerable to attack and exploitation. Keep your secrets guarded and share only what's necessary. Your past is your story, your power, and your shield. Don't hand it over to someone else. Something that holds profound significance, yet often goes unspoken, the art of discretion when it comes to your past. Your history is a rich tapestry, woven with moments of triumph and threads of adversity. It is a landscape filled with peaks that have shaped your strengths and valleys that have tested your resilience. This personal history is yours to hold, to reflect upon, and to protect. When you choose to reveal every corner of this landscape to someone else, you are not merely recounting events, you are handing over the keys to your innermost self, to your vulnerabilities, and to your hidden strengths. It's crucial to recognize the value in keeping certain parts of this journey sacred, for not everything is meant to be shared. Consider for a moment the power that lies in maintaining a sense of mystery about yourself. There's an allure, a magnetism that comes with not revealing everything. It's not about being evasive, it's about exercising wisdom in what you choose to disclose. When you hold back certain details of your past, you maintain control over your narrative, ensuring that others only see the aspects of your life that you are comfortable sharing. Nietzsche once remarked that when we are weary, we are besieged by ideas we thought we had conquered long ago. This is particularly true when we unwittingly arm others with our secrets, leaving ourselves vulnerable to their potential misuse. Reflect on the times you've been completely open with someone, perhaps in moments when you felt particularly connected or when trust seemed absolute. Did this openness always lead to a stronger bond, or did it sometimes leave you feeling overexposed? It's a common belief that full disclosure will deepen relationships, yet in reality, it can sometimes lead to an unsettling sense of vulnerability. Your past is not just a chronology of experiences, it's a collection of lessons, some of which are meant to remain personal. By sharing every hardship, every wound, you risk reopening old scars that have long since healed. However, let's be careful not to misunderstand this as a call to build impenetrable walls around yourself. It's about balance, understanding that while openness can foster connection, there is also strength in reserving certain parts of your story. Your past is a testament to your resilience, a reservoir of wisdom gained through both success and struggle. Treat it as such. By being selective in what you share, you not only protect yourself, but also maintain the integrity of your experiences. Some chapters of your life are meant to remain private, kept safe within you as sources of strength and personal growth. Imagine your past as a form of armor, a protective layer that shields you from potential harm. This armor is not just a defense mechanism, but a reminder of the battles you've fought and the wisdom you've gained. When you choose to reveal only what is necessary, you keep that armor intact, preserving the parts of your past that give you power and protection. You don't need to prove your worth by divulging every detail of your history. In fact, people often respect you more when they sense that you value your experiences enough to guard them carefully. This creates an air of respect and intrigue, where others appreciate that there is more to you than meets the eye. It's important to recognize that not everyone you encounter is entitled to know your full story. Your past is a treasure, filled with valuable lessons and personal milestones. It's your story to tell, but only to those who have earned the privilege to hear it. By holding back certain details, you're not being secretive for the sake of it, you're acknowledging the importance of your journey and the significance of what you've endured. You are the custodian of your experiences, and with that comes the responsibility to share them judiciously, preserving their significance and your personal power. Let's take a step back and think about the impact of this careful guardianship of your past. By not laying everything bare, you maintain a sense of self-respect and protect your emotional well-being. You are not just your past, you are the person who has emerged from it, stronger and wiser. By being selective in what you share, you keep your personal power intact. This doesn't mean you should be distant or detached. Rather, it means you should be mindful of how much of yourself you give away. The more you hold close, the more others will value what you do choose to reveal. As we conclude this conversation, we invite you to reflect deeply on the significance of safeguarding your past. Your history is not something to be shared indiscriminately. It is a testament to your journey, your struggles, and your victories. By protecting it, you preserve your strength and command the respect of those around you. This isn't about being closed off, it's about recognizing the power that comes from understanding the value of your own story. Your past is yours, and yours alone. Guard it wisely, and you will find that not only do you protect yourself, but you also cultivate a deeper sense of self-respect and trust from those who are truly worthy of knowing you. Lastly, stop spending too much time on someone who doesn't value it. Pouring all your time into someone else is like throwing your most precious resource into a bottomless pit. Every minute you spend obsessing over them is a piece of your life you'll never get back. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Reclaim your time and invest it in things that bring you growth, joy, and fulfillment. Remember, your time is yours, not theirs. Don't let it slip away for someone who doesn't appreciate it. Something that can shape the way you live and how you spend your most valuable resource, your time. Imagine standing on the shore, tossing gold coins into the ocean, one by one. Each coin represents a moment of your life, something irreplaceable, something precious. But here's the catch. You're tossing them for someone who doesn't even notice, someone who doesn't see their worth. That's what it's like when we spend too much time on someone who doesn't value it. Every minute you give away without thought or appreciation is like another coin lost to the waves, never to be retrieved. Seneca, a wise philosopher, once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." And how true is that? We often complain about not having enough time, but perhaps the real issue is where our time goes. Think about those endless hours spent waiting for a message, those sleepless nights replaying conversations, or those days lost in trying to please someone who barely acknowledges your efforts. This isn't just about wasted time, it's about wasted energy, emotion, and potential. What could you have done with that time? What could you have achieved, learned, or created if it hadn't been thrown away? We need to realize that our time is our own, it doesn't belong to anyone else. It's a gift, one that we should treasure and protect fiercely. When you pour your time into someone who doesn't appreciate it, you're giving away a piece of your life that you can never get back. This isn't about being selfish, it's about self-respect. If someone doesn't value your time, they don't value you. And if they don't value you, they don't deserve the moments that make up your life. There's an important lesson here: reclaim your time. Take it back from those who squander it. Invest it in yourself, in your growth, and the things that bring you joy and fulfillment. Time spent on your passions, your dreams, and your well-being is never wasted. It's an investment with guaranteed returns. Imagine what your life could look like if you redirected all that energy into something meaningful, something that feeds your soul instead of draining it. We must remember that not everyone we meet will appreciate our time, and that's okay. But it's our responsibility to decide where our time goes. We can't control how others treat us, but we can control how we respond. And sometimes, the best response is to walk away, to stop giving time to those who don't value it. This isn't about bitterness or resentment, it's about wisdom. It's about understanding that your time is too valuable to be wasted on anyone who doesn't see its worth. So, let's make a pact, here and now, to be mindful of where our time goes, to protect it like the treasure it is. Let's choose to spend it on people and pursuits that uplift us, that make us better, that add value to our lives. Life is too short, not because of its length, but because of how easily time slips away when we're not paying attention. Let's pay attention, let's take control, And let's make sure that every moment we spend is a moment well lived. In the end, the way we spend our time is the way we spend our lives. Make sure that your life isn't spent on someone who doesn't appreciate it. Instead, invest in yourself, in your passions, and in the people who truly value you. That's the path to a life of meaning, fulfillment, and joy. And remember, your time is yours, it's your most precious resource. Don't let it slip away. Now it's time to take action. Start today by declaring that you will no longer do these things, and commit to becoming the best version of yourself at any cost. Leave a comment below with your promise, and we'll feature the most inspiring comment on our channel. Don't forget to subscribe for your daily dose of unfiltered and uncensored wisdom.